One of the most annoying enemies in the entire game, in my opinion, are the marionette soldiers, whose death throes are the downfall of many unsuspecting Tarnished. But could you imagine if they were the same size as these gigantic ones located by the Liurnia Highway North Grace? These broken marionettes are several times larger than the ones we face. And as if that wasn't bad enough, they're also located right by these destroyed flame chariots, which are also monstrously large, far larger than the other ones we encounter in the game. These would have been nothing short of a nightmare to fight, and what's a scarier thought still is what managed to take them out. But the only thing capable of taking me out is this video's sponsor, which is the secret to my sleep. Manta Sleep. They actually sent me the product to try, so I could be assured I wasn't advertising anything poor quality. I now use them personally every night and take them wherever I go, but I prefer the Pro version because of how seamless it is for side sleeping. Being able to assure yourself the same consistency every night, no matter where you are, has been game-changing for my productivity. And given how much many of you like to fall asleep to lore, this could be a genuinely great idea. Use the code SME in the link in the description or pinned comment for 10% off your next purchase. And if you're from Australia, you're just in time for the winter sales, which have some massive deals, where you can sign up for VIP-only offers and save up to 15 or even 20% off. Thanks again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Located on multiple castles and forts is this depiction of jar-holding maidens, like those seen cross-culturally. However, if you look closely, like the beastmen and older ancient dragons comprising the foundations of Farum Azula, or the people comprising the trees, Divine Gate, and foundations of Enir Ilim and Volcano Manor, these maidens are actually fusing with the pillars, becoming one with the foundations. I'd even personally argue that these rope-like decorations in the background remind me of the rope-like figures we see in the Divine Gates, whose foundations may very well have been two pillars, like those seen in this image, like the Golden Capital Stormveil, which has this depiction on the archway leading to the Lord's throne, and whose two front pillars on the main gate are made in the likeness of Enir Ilim's Divine Gate. Buried in the chest cavity of the Lesser Giants is a tablet, and the only instance we don't see these present are the dead ones that have been strung up in Stormveil and Volcano Manor, as well as those enshrined or buried in the giant conquering hero grave. This tablet is in likeness to an astrolabe, a tool of the astrologers found on their outfit, used to map and research the celestial bodies and heavens. Appropriate given the Fell God's presence in the very same cavity of the fire giants takes the form of a storm that's seen on a celestial body, and its power manifests in the form of a sun. Given its likeness to a star mapping instrument, one would assume this is the work of the Carians or astrologers, who had a relationship with the giants, and who have oath-sworn giants, even as war counselors, among their ranks. But this also looks particularly close to the likeness of the Erdtree sigil as well, which also fits, given the presence of lesser giants in the only location brandishing the sigil of the Two Fingers, the giant conquering hero's grave. This makes sense because it was the betrayal of the trolls, the lesser giants, that was a pivotal moment in the war against the giants. And that's why I would wager they reside in this grave as heroes. So, given this tablet is universal, no matter the allegiance of the lesser giant, the sigil itself isn't a universal driving force like the Fell God in the Fire Giants or Rykard in the Serpent, nor a set of guiding instructions, but instead maybe something else entirely. I theorize instead that they are soul slaves, laborers, as described on the brick hammer. The use of souls in the creation of weaponry was the ancient art of the giants, and there are numerous crafted life forms in the lands between, as well as artificial life and souls used to power a number of different beings and technologies. And these tablets are no different. I think they're actually gravestones, and are the being that operates the vessel of the lesser giant, like the red glintstone that powers the Forge Guardians. I think the fact that we only find it missing on deceased giants, including the ones who are buried in the hero grave, helps to establish this, and we see ourselves when Renala, a carrion with oath-sworn lesser giants, turns her own children into gravestones to power her attacks and her own protective shield. Perhaps then, these tablet graves are something similar, and are the rebellious pilots of these crafted labour vessels. It reminds me of how the Elden Beast, which is the Elden Ring, is essentially piloting the body of Radagon. It also helps that this sigil is so similar to both an astrolabe which maps stars, giant celestial bodies holding ancient life, and the Erd Tree, which exists as a hub of souls, whose seeds are found nestled between the two fingers which are the children of a shooting star, and which houses both the Elden Beast, which also arrived on a shooting star, and the souls of the Erd Tree burial network, which, as Ymir reminds us, are the stuff of stars, the very foundation of the magic of the ancient soul-swapping astrologers and sorcerers who were proficient in the art of soul puppetry, and had a relationship with the giants who crafted soul weapons and soul slaves. There's a reference to the Shadowlands and DLC in the opening of the base game in the cinematic, specifically this area. I can tell because the outfit worn by Marika only contains a single loop, like we find in the DLC, unlike the more elaborate outfit with 2 loops we find her wearing in the base game. If I were to guess, I'd say this area reminds me an awful lot of the cathedral above Meta. But even more than that, it reminds me of the Forsaken Graveyard, where we enter the Abyssal Woods. There's abundant evidence a large building once stood here, like the nearby chapel missing a statue of Marika. And the similarity of the graves and layout are, to me, also pretty compelling. Secret snakes are one of my favourite motifs in Elden Ring, and there are genuinely so many of them it's nauseating. But one I stumbled upon that gave me pause was this secret snake within the lizard greatsword, featuring a forked tongue, which does appear in some lizards, but is a universal feature in snakes. At a glance, that may seem insane. But the crossover of lizards and snakes in Elden Ring, like the belly-ridden worms and serpentine ulcerated tree spirits, as well as other combinations of snakes and many other creatures, makes this actually look kinda tame in comparison. And this follows through for the next secret, which is this fair maiden. It's a subtle observation, like the theory of her being pregnant. But the position Nanaya's hands are in, with one facing out and the other inward, seem to be intentional. The position they're in is the exact same position as the jarred shaman, the ones whose wombs ensnare you like a serpent. And speaking of wounded mothers, an extra finger is said to be a blessing bestowed on the beastman by the god of the ancient dragons, and we consistently see ascended beings, and beings seeking to emulate ascended beings, donning extra fingers. Mohg is one such being, whose 6th finger is actually a horn, which we know is used to invoke divinity, which he uses to wound the formless mother to call upon her bounty, invoking her power. You may have seen the video released by Lance McDonald on the cut Miquella content that was recently data mined, and it makes me wonder if this small golden moon I found out of bounds during the Rani endgame cutscene could have anything to do with the unalloyed Empyrean. After all, Miquella's cut endgame speech also very closely resembles the endgame speech given by Rani.
I do solemnly swear.
I hereby swear.
To every living being and every living soul.
To every living being and every living soul.
Now cometh the age of the stars.
Now comes the age of our Eden.
1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon.
1,000-year voyage, guided by compassion.
Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond.
Beginning here, love encompasses all.
Into fear, doubt, and loneliness. As the path stretcheth into darkness.
No living thing will be denied. No deed censured. I am ready to embrace the whole of it.
Let us go together, my dear consort eternal.
Let us go together. Radahn, my promised consort.
The jewelry of these colossal figures in the Eternal Cities is a magnificent combination of silver, gold, and blackstone, or obsidian. They have anklets made of blackstone, adornments and rings made of silver featuring 2 red gems flanking a green one on each hand, and a silver necklace featuring a square black-green gem, as well as a golden crown, with silver and gold bracelets. It also has a red gold neck and back brace keeping the skeleton in position. There's other jewelry on other ancient beings that can even give us a glimpse into their history. These magnificent, gravity-commanding Lords of Stone from ancient times are among the only beings that truly possess actually golden eyes, like the Dragon Lord itself. However, it's their golden belts that have on them a particular pattern that is very similar to another one we see in Rao Ruins and the other Giants' Ruins, the Giants' Forge, the jails in the Shadowlands, and the upper section of the Halig Tree. What's more, their swords are both blue and gold, yet both said to be the colour of meteorites, like the colours of the finger ruins of Deo and Rhea. Their dark and light forms on a stone body are also very reminiscent of the dark and light versions of the stone-sheathed sword from the DLC. In the Ordina Everjail, we're relentlessly pursued by invisible assassins who are only revealed by their footsteps, or by the use of the sentry's torch, and this includes outside of the Everjail as well. However, if you've ever wondered just how many of these assassins there are in this Everjail, the answer is 4. 1 here, 1 here, another right here, and the last one far over here. There are many things in the concept art that make the art books worth buying, and really throw you down an entirely new rabbit hole you never expected. And one of my favourite depictions of the concept art is that of the Giant's Forge, with a lid. Though we see some examples, it's difficult to make out what they could have been cooking long ago. But perhaps what's flanking the forge, as well as the likeness of the forge to the furnace golems and what we find in their core, could be a hint. What we know for certain, however, that was not in these mockeries of the fire giants crafted to obliterate the horn scent, were any horn scent. We find a dragon, a horse, and many bodies, but none of which are bearing any horns. One of my all-time favourite places in the game is the Dragon Altar at Farum Azula. I place particular importance on this location, as this dragon head defended by the Godskin duo, to me, is perhaps the remains of the first of the ancient dragons. This specimen is completely singular in the game, and is unlike any other dragon with a single other depiction anywhere that's an exact match. And the result is very interesting. This depiction in the official art book of what looks like a biological version of the ancient dragons, with their iconic 4 wings but with the colours and flesh of standard dragons, is the only exact match. It looks like a halfway state between Grandsax and Grail, like the very first of the ancient dragons. What do you think of this mysterious dragon head? And lastly, Farum Azula has been theorized to mean blue lighthouse, like Farum Brigantium. And there are several uniquely blue things in Farum Azula that lead me to believe this is true. Not only is it covered in blue adornments, but the bestial warriors of this sanctum are also adorned in blue. The chunks of the fallen city show blue throughout their faded and broken remains, and the Dragon Lord itself has blue hues all through its wounds. If you're interested in why this is the case, you can check out my last video where I theorized it was once the top of the ancient tree that rested in the north, which was the Shadowlands, the blue, shining crown of the Tree of Death where the first Elden Ring's depiction is found, nearby where the Dragon Lord rests in a chamber that calls down the bounty of the heavens, the same gold as the Golden Order. Thanks for watching, and of course, a massive shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members, especially my very generous sponsors. Thank you for keeping coal in the engine. Your generous contributions help me build the foundations I need for consistency.